Alright, so this is the process that we have here now. We're using a RCBS single stage rock chucker press with RCBS competition seating die. We have a Lyman bleacher block, which is pretty neat. It's not a flat block, so each row actually increases a little bit in height. Makes it easier to keep track of your loads, and I've just found it to be an all-around really nice block to use. Now here is the nut and bolts of the operation. We're actually going to be using the old school Lyman O-House M5. This is a wonderful scale. It is mechanically or magnetically dampened, and it is very accurate. The fulcrum in which it sits has been sharpened and polished, and it is we're seeing 1 grain resolution when we are trickling powder in using the Redding powder trickler. Now that electronic scale in the background, that is just there for a backup, just for me to get my powder measure, which is this guy right here. Is a Frankfurt Arsenal. That's to get the powder measure dialed in precisely, or at least close, and then I start dumping powder into the pan and putting it directly on the O-House M5, and then trickling up from there with the Redding trickler. As you can see, we actually have a webcam pointed right at the indicator for the scale. Now what I have there is it just goes around, and it's plugged into my LG G-Pad tablet. And the nice thing about that is I get a very up-close view of when we've reached our target powder weight. We also have a indicator for concentricity. I actually made that myself. It works fairly well. It could be better, but it works fairly well for now. And we are using Hornady 75 grain boat tail hollow point. We're also loading with Reloader 15 today. The brass is actually General Dynamics. I don't know if it's going to focus here. There we go. It's AB, that is General Dynamics, and it is 556 brass. So you're going to see a bit more pressure with this brass than you would with, say, a Federal cartridge head stamped or RP head stamped 223 specific brass. We loaded everything here, or we primed everything here on the RCBS tabletop priming system. This is a wonderful priming system. I highly recommend it. And we have our ubiquitous digital calipers that every reloader should have. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into some loading, and I'll show you exactly how we do this. Alright, so we have our powder dropper here, and that is set up to drop a tenth or two low. This powder dropper is actually extremely reliable, and we consistently see 0.1 to 0.2 grain variation. Typically it's on the 0.1 side. Today we're loading up 24.5 grains of Reloader 15 under a 75 grain boat tail hollow point. And so we'll go ahead and drop the powder. So I always give it 2 taps on the bottom. Now the thing about powder measures, powder droppers, is you want to be as consistent as possible with how you pull the lever. If you only tap once on one stroke and then twice on the other, you could get an overcharge, or it could throw just slightly more than what you're expecting. Alright, so I'm going to try to do this while holding the camera here. So dropped our powder. Going to place it on the O-House M5 here. And as you can see, right here, we're actually fairly close. We're just a few tenths of a grain off from the target weight. So I'm going to slowly trickle up here with the Redding trickler, and that Hornady trickler that you see in the background works fairly well as well. I just find that it trickles a little too fast for my likings, This one you can really sit here and get 1 grain at a time. I'll actually start screen recording on the tablet there so that you can actually see what we're looking at on that. Let me try to get it all in frame here. And it looks like we are, as you can see here, pretty much dead nuts perfect at 24.5 grains. So now it's as easy as charging the case. So I'm going to put my funnel on there. It's going to tip over because this is actually a 30 cal loading block. And just dump the powder in. One thing I've noticed is that you really have to be kind of rough with these funnels to make sure none of the powder is hung up on the between the edge of the case and the edge of the funnel. Alright, so we're going to go from here, remove the funnel, and put the bullet on. Alright. So we'll go ahead and remove the funnel here. Place the case on the raised, I don't know if you can see that here. It's actually a raised shell plate that RCBS gives out with the competition seating die. Gonna grab our bullet here. Like I said, 75 grains, Hornady boat tail hollow point. I'm going to raise the ram until this piece up in here just barely starts moving up. That gives you a clear loading gate right here. Going to drop that in, wait for it to steady, and then just run it home. Now if you really wanted to get crazy, you could check every single round on both concentricity and overall length. We are at 2.2505 on this one. Book says 2.25. I would say we're good enough. Don't have a need to check concentricity on every case. From here on out, it is just rinse and repeat. Alright, so the last thing that we're going to do here is use a Lee factory crimp die. You can see it's just a standard factory crimp collet die. These things are great because what they can do is they can really even out your neck tension, and all you need is just the lightest crimp on your case neck to hold the bullet and more uniform that neck tension. You don't want the collet to squeeze down too far and leave distinguishing marks on it. I don't know if this is going to focus here. Let's see. So those marks that you see right there from sizing it, it was neck size brass. I like to neck size even virgin brass so that make sure everything's going to fit perfectly. And every once in a while you get out of round case necks. But as you can see, there's hardly, if any at all, marks on here from the factory crimp die. And the only thing that I'm doing is I'm just putting the slightest bit of squeeze on it to even out that neck tension, as well as better hold the bullet just a little bit better, because I will be firing these out of an AR-15. I do like to use the Lee factory crimp die on all of my rapid fire, and basically standing, sitting, and prone rapid fire stages, and NRA across the course or CMP. The only rounds that I typically do not put a crimp on would be bolt action or my 600-yard loads for NRA across the course. And that's because I'm single loading them. I'm not putting them in a magazine. I'm single loading them and slow firing at 600 yards. So it's not quite as necessary. I'm also using match prepped nozzler or normal brass for that. So that is the final step here that we have in the Precision 223 reloading session. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to ask them.